place.
Come on with the rain.
Rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain and singing, just singing in the rain.
Texas history. So it may be hard to imagine that I'm singing in the rain this morning, but in AISD we know that after last year's dark clouds and stormy weather, we can't help but welcome these bright, dry skies. So there's a good reason to have high hopes for our students and our staff, and I'll give this to you and say welcome to the 3rd annual AISD State of the District. Just a taste of them, so give them a big round of applause. What you just saw was the extent of my talent. I knew I was in trouble when we did the first practice and they sent me dance steps in writing. So this is going to be a long speech for me, but they will totally make us look a lot better than I am in alone. So I also just want to thank our hosts for today, our principal, Mike Garrison, and the McCallum staff. Mike, wherever you are. You can tell, Malcolm Nelson, our jazz band director, Carol Nelson, the Austin Chamber of Music coaches, Margaret Eyre and Jenny Gossard, the Fine Arts Academy coordinator, Lanier Bayless, the Chamber Orchestra director, our little pit orchestra is down here, Ricky Pringle, the technical theater director, M. Scott Tatum, who made that magical water happen, so give him a big round of applause. Matt Ellers, and of course our talented students are going to be performing to make me look a lot better today, so please give them all a round of applause and we'll get started in 2 seconds. And this is a fantastic theater. Welcome to the McCallum Arts Center. It's the district's newest facility and it was funded through the 2008 bond program. The building is 25,000 square feet with 3 state-of-the-art classrooms as well as this 524-seat auditorium. I'd like to thank our taxpayers for making this possible, not just for McCallum students, but for the rest of the district so we can have events like this and this magnificent facility. This State of the District is part of our reporting rhythm, where we are more transparent and accountable to the public about our work and our outcomes as a district. We're going to talk about academics, we're going to talk about finances, and we're going to talk about our operations so that everybody knows where AISD is for the 2011 year. Now, during the course of today's program, we're going to celebrate our achievements in the district, and we're also going to look at areas where we can still improve. But it's been stormy times this past year, but I want to let you know that the clouds are indeed clearing, and we have a lot to celebrate in AISD. So I'm going to give you an opportunity, walk on up, my cloud friends, an opportunity to say goodbyes to some of our darkest clouds of the season. The district started the school year with about a $4 billion deficit, a $4 billion state cut from the Texas legislature, and that left it for AISD with us having to cut $35.6 million from our budget, and we're going to be looking at another $53.6 over the next school year. So I just got to say, woo! I'm glad that's over. So I'm going to ask you to help us say goodbye to some of our stormy clouds, and this is how it works. You're going to repeat after me. Goodbye, 2011 legislative session. So ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. Goodbye, 2011 legislative session. Thank you. Now, while we don't miss that session, we do appreciate our Travis County delegation who looked out for us. I wasn't out earlier, but I do believe there are a couple of state legislators here. Would you please stand? If you are here, just on a... Paul Orman, there he is. Hi, thank you for coming. City and county folks that are supportive of the district. If you are, you don't have to be elected, but if you work in Austin and support our schools, but you're also a city, state, county person, could you please also stand so we can recognize you? I want to say perhaps I saw, just say hello, thank you. Hard, but as I report on the state of the district, I want to assure you, the staff and the community, that because of the difficult times of last year, there was probably a lot of consternation and concern about where AISD would end in its financial status. And I want to let you know that we are on sound financial footing. Our budget planning has allowed us to stabilize our district and focus on our work for the last 2 years. So while other districts are actually facing cuts right now, you may have been reading that in the paper, and are doing ongoing layoffs, we are not doing that in AISD. What I want to say is that as of today, I want to underscore my commitment that there will be no layoffs this year, and I will be announcing today, please clap for the layoffs. No layoffs. At the January 30th regular board meeting, that I will be requesting that the board actually lift our declaration of financial exigency that is required for reduction in force. The point of doing this is to ensure that teachers and other staff have the assurance they need to know that their jobs are not going away, and that we can concentrate on the work that we need to be doing over the next year, which is educating our kids. So, come on, little budget cuts, step on up here, and let's say goodbye to our stormy clouded budget cuts. Goodbye, budget cuts. Now, in the face of these challenges, I want to say here and now that I'm really proud of our district and our outcomes. I'll be talking about that in a moment from our annual report. But despite all the clouds and chaos that were created by outside forces that were oftentimes beyond our control, I want you to know that our staff, again, did not fold under the pressure while everybody was trying to distract us. It did not take us off our purpose for serving kids. I see many principals and administrators in the audience. I did invite them today. Could you please stand if you're a principal or a teacher in the district, a support staff person, just so folks can say thank you. They completely held held the line on many things that could have, crushed a weaker person or staff. They were not, little, fragile flowers. They really spent a lot of time with me and still are to this day. That's part of the state of the district, working with me to figure out a bigger budget solution that will take us into multiple out years. So I just want to thank them publicly for all that they're doing. Now, another part of what you're going to see in the annual report is our status with state accountability testing. Last year was the final full year of tax testing. And so we've begun that transition from merely measuring proficiency to assessing college readiness using the STAR. So I just wanted to be sure that you got to say goodbye to the last stormy cloud known as tax. So join me in saying, goodbye, tax. Now, the information that I'm about to share is highlighted in the 2011 annual report, and you can find that online. But as we bring closure to the tax assessment, it gives us a chance to look at the last several, up to 9 years of performance information about AISD. And in the interest, of course, of being more cost-effective and green and environmentally friendly, of course, we are in Austin, we wanted to be sure that it's all on the web and you can print out a copy on recycled paper in your home if you'd like to. But you can cruise it online at www.austinisd.org. But let me just give you a snapshot of what it looks like so you can go back and look at the things that you're most interested in. First, I just want you to know that AISD serves about 86,000 students. That's an increase of about 5,000 students over the last 5 years. We've been growing by about 1,000 students a year, and we're going to continue to see that kind of growth. Our demographic makeup has actually shifted, and you will see that our district has become more diverse, that the needs of our students are even higher, and without new state funding to help us balance that growth and the needs, it's going to be tough times for AISD. We're urban, we're big, and we celebrate and embrace our diversity. So that's going to require that we think a little bit more about how we use our resources. But basically what this says is that nearly 2 out of 3 children are living in poverty. They actually qualify for free and reduced lunch in AISD. 1 in 3 For 1 in 3, English is not their first language, so they and our schools are expected to succeed in our state accountability work, even though they are not native speakers. 1 in 10 children are actually classified as having a learning or other disability, and while all of these things makes us a rich, vibrant district, it also means that it takes more resources to do this. And since we're not really funded for growth in a way that's going to help Austin Independent School District after this last legislative session, this is why you'll see when we get to our board priorities that we indeed will be looking at creating new delivery models for services that we've been providing in a pretty traditional way over a longer period of time. But I just want to let you know that that is part of what why these demographic points are really important for the district. Now, I'll switch over to achievement and highlight for you some of the good news about our gap work. While there's still gaps in achievement, you can see from that chart right there, beginning in 2003 and moving closer to 2011, that we've done a lot of work in improving our gap work, but the gap has not technically closed or been eliminated. But today in 2011, while it's very close and it's kind of hard to see there on the right, I just want to let you know that the gap between ethnic groups has actually decreased to 10 percentage points or less. So just big kudos to teachers, staff, support folks, leadership for making that happen. I got here 2.5 years ago, but this work's been going on for a long time, as you can see from the chart. Now, in 2003, since 2003, we've had lots of improvement in 2 areas where we've struggled the most, math and science. And this is where we see our greatest gains over time. Since 2003, the percentage of students meeting the mathematics standards actually increased by 30 percentage points, and that puts us at about an 84% pass rate. And in science, the pass rate has actually risen this year to 80%. So that's another piece of great news for Austin. We know that math and science can be barriers for students as they try to get prepared with rigor to go on to college. In reading and writing, this is probably the thing that people don't ever write about or say about AISD. But in case you didn't know, I want you to know that in all 5 student groups evaluated by our state assessment standard, we are recognized in both reading and writing. So that is huge for our district, and we held that standard for the 2011 school year as well. And of course, we don't stop at our local performance and state level. We also look at how our kids do nationally. So I'm going to highlight for you on the next page our SAT performance. AISD consistently rates near the top in comparison with other of our state's big urban districts called the Big Eights. And here you'll see that AISD in the blue from last year, we actually were lower in the rankings against our big urban counterparts. And you can scroll down so people can see the bottom for committed rates. What's important for people to understand is that this is the highest committed levels that we've had in the history of our district, and it actually made us number 1 in some of the rankings when compared to other districts. So we have over 30% of our kids at the commended level. And for those of you who don't know what that means that these little itty bitties down here and who will be singing and dancing and frolicking on the stage, they basically got almost every question right on the test to be able to qualify for being commended. So our kids rocked that test. So congratulations to you too. Now, we just looked at our state comparison, and so on a national level, our students taking the SAT college entrance exam in 2010 exceeded both state and national averages for the 4th year in a row. So our brilliant juniors and seniors are still out there really showing the nation what they're able to do and what they know, and they outscored their counterparts in the state and the nation in math, again, that critical subject area, and in the state in both verbal and writing scores. So congratulations. Are you a senior yet? Okay, good job. Now, when you take all the work that we've been doing academically, I know there's a lot of commentary about budgets and what's happening in AISD. I want to let you know that for tax rate and funding, our district did all of this while maintaining one of the lowest overall tax rates in Central Texas, and actually in our area we are the lowest. So we've always been the lowest or next to lowest in our history, but pretty much we are at the bottom, and we really do all of this maximizing every dollar, penny, and cent that Austin residents and taxpayers give us. So thank you, taxpayers, for supporting us, and thank you, Austin ISD, for making that dollar go as far as we possibly could. Our general fund budget is about $836 million, but the important thing to remember about Austin is we only get to use about 710 of it. Under the state funding system known as Robin Hood, AISD sends about $126 million this year to the state as part of the state formula for distributing funding from districts with higher property values to other districts with lower property values. Now, even with a smaller district budget this year, we will have to send more than we did last year to the state. And that means that over the last 10 years, we are now topping over $1.3 billion of revenue that's been sent to the state. Now, while that might have been okay 10 years ago, when our demographics were a little more homogeneous and we had far less poverty in our student numbers. Remember, today, 2 out of 3 kids are using our free and reduced lunch meal programs. And that means that days of ago are not the days of today, and we need all of our resources to actually fund and support our kids today. I just want to be clear that while we know this is an issue, there's very little that we will be able to do in the next couple of years, if anything, over the next several years, because this is something that doesn't help Austin, but it does benefit other districts, and this is something that gets taken up at the next legislative session. But this is part of our reality, and that's why I really want to be able to talk about in a few moments what our big master plan is around budget planning, knowing that these kinds of things are not going to change. Now, I'll wrap up talking a little bit about attendance and and our big picture for our staff. But I wanted to highlight this chart for a reason. We know that when we increase our attendance rates in our district, that it actually generates revenue for schools. If we just increase by 1 percentage point, we could generate almost $6 million. And then, of course, if we were at 100% attendance, we could fill our funding gap, right? It's in the tens and tens of millions of dollars. So what we've been focusing on since I started as a superintendent in 2009 is waging a pretty aggressive attendance campaign across the district at all levels. And I just want, again, to thank our schools, principals, parents, caregivers, and staff for making that a priority. And as a result, we increased our attendance district-wide, some schools, multiple percentage points. But for our district, when it all bubbles up for us to see, it was about a half of a percentage point, which means we generated an additional $2 million for the district that we were able to reapply to our bottom line to keep providing the services that we put in our budget for planning this year. So this is a really big piece to our work. It generates dollars, and we also know it's a pretty basic concept, right? I can't teach you if you don't come to school. So we want to be sure that you're coming to school, that you're learning, and that we're really maximizing our teachers' time, because the quality instruction, as research shows, has the greatest impact on student achievement. I just want to also put a plug for our high schools and middle schools, but it's really, the burn is in the high schools and the midnight hour around graduation rates. And while it is lag data and we see it 1 year later, I just want to say that we know that the continued work, even though we know we can't make that much of a difference once we follow that cohort from the 9th grade, we know that our high school principals in particular have really been huffing it, and our graduation rate in 2010, which is the last real-time data we have, actually increased by 3 percentage points, and that is extraordinary. And while that rate is still at the 78.6, we haven't topped an 80% graduation rate, we know that that increase is just one small indicator of how we're really tightening the ship at the secondary level and making sure that our kids actually graduate on time. We're going to do some things this school year, which you may have read about. It's going to be part of some of the recommendations I'll be making in December. We're going to look at ways to do alternative routes to graduation, how we're going to aggressively pursue helping kids recapture their credits, doing credit recovery, and we're just going to do a better job of trying to remove the barriers for kids to finish high school in general. So these are just some of the big things that we'll be working on, and you'll hear about a little bit later. Now, I'll just close out on the annual report by just highlighting some of the things you see there. We have more than 12,000 employees, which makes us the 6th largest employer in Austin. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I'll say we may be the 6th largest employer, but we've got the most important jobs in Austin in providing a workforce for the future. So we want to be sure that you'll hear about again later. I want you to understand a little bit of what we're looking at around our human capital strategy and development. That's going to be really important, especially after seeing what happened in the legislature. We're going to have to do things like protecting our pipeline and some other things that are important. Now, I also just wanted to close out the annual report, because it is one of the things on our last page, with a little photo. You might recognize these people. You voted for them. They are some of the hardest working volunteers and committed volunteers in Austin. We have so much drama in our district. We are under so much pressure and advocacy, and there's so much work to do to run a billion-dollar enterprise like a public school system in Austin, Texas, but they never give up on us. They are always there, and I probably talk to 1 or 2 or 3 of them every single day, because they are so committed to our kids and making this right. So I just want to stop and acknowledge our Board of Trustees. We have a couple of them here today. First, I just wanted to acknowledge Lori Moya, our secretary from District 6. Please stand. Tamala Barksdale, at large, District 9. Vincent Torres, our board vice president. from District 2. We have our, I think I saw Annette Lavoie, yes, our at-large District Board of Trustee, Annette Lavoie from District 8. And would our board president please stand, Mark Williams. And I just have to say something about Mark because we are a wild bunch, right? As a board of 10, we call ourselves a team of 10. We have, 10 different opinions, including mine, and he has to kind of corral us all. And so I just wanted to say that as the board president, while you think my job is hard, the board president's job is even harder. And so I have to say this about Mark Williams. He has the most positive, beaming, happy personality I've ever had to work with under so much pressure, and he's always helping try to lead us and the board to look to the bright side, even on 5-4 votes, on the bright side of what we're doing. So I just want to say thank you to our Board of Trustees and to our public for voting these folks in, and thank you for working with me and keeping things a little bright for AISD.
Some things in life are bad, they can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on Austin's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this will help things turn out for the best. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life. Life is quite absurd, and that's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow. Forget about your sins, give the audience a grip. Enjoy it, it's your last dance anyhow. Everybody, always look on the right side of life. Always look on the right side of life. Side of life. Side of life. Side of life.
Independent School District. There are many bright sides of what we do, and I want you to know that 85 of our Austin campuses received 85 Austin campuses received a total of 236 gold performance acknowledgments from the TEA this year. Did you know that about yourself? 236. Our tax student pass rates improved in all subjects to their highest levels ever. 84% of our gorgeous seniors have actually applied to college, which is the highest percent ever. 62 students from our Austin high schools were named National Merit finalists or semifinalists. Was it any of you? Oh, just raise your hands anyway. Say it's me. Yeah. 4 of our AISD schools made the Texas Business and Education Coalition's honor roll, and only 4% of the districts and schools in our state actually get that. So congratulations to them. 3 of our high schools received the 2011 College Readiness Award from the ACT for its significant strides in actually increasing college readiness for our graduates. And then, thanks to the work of so many principals, our Office of Innovation and Development, 2 national organizations actually recognized AISD's commitment to making you not a tax taker, but a whole child. And that is the Kennedy Center for Expanding the Arts Initiative, known as Any Given Child, and the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, known as CASEL, has partnered with us for social emotional learning because we care about you so much. And finally, for the second consecutive year, two big things happened in finance. We are for the first time in our history, was last year, or year before last, now the second year, we are a AAA bond-rated school district, which is huge. It saves money for our taxpayers. And our comptroller actually awarded our finance office for the second year in a row an award for budget transparency. So, clap, please. The money's right. And we get to spend it on you. So hopefully you can see that we're moving in the right direction, and there are many things to be bright and happy about. Our district is on the rise, and we're working toward our goals. So I just want to say thank you, gentlemen, for taking us through the bright side. So we just wanted to capture the key areas, thank you, of our State of the District are, so that you could have a snapshot in your own mind. Just to recap, we've had steady progress since 2003, and it wasn't shabby either in 2011. Our academic gaps between students literally narrowed by 1/2. And for the second year, 80% of our students met and exceeded state standards in every subject. And like I said, more students are ready and applying for college than ever before. Financially, AISD is on sound financial footing. We have the second lowest tax rate compared to surrounding districts. And this year, there will be no layoffs, no declaration of financial exigency, and what we're working on, which I haven't quite had figured out just yet, if we can make sure we get through this school year, I do believe that with all of the financial planning and 2-year reduction strategy and holding the line on our budget, that we may be able to plan for a salary increase out of our planning reduction work, but it would not be sustainable if we did not go for a TRE in the future out years. So this would be a big step for us that we're planning for. I'll be talking to the board about it at our December meeting. While all the numbers aren't in and we have to really walk this line carefully, we know that one of the concerns that we have is that we are one of the districts, one of the very few, that has not seen a salary increase. If we did not do it this next school year, we will not have seen any compensation increase for our staff in 3 years. And that's just unheard of in our work. And we know that we are not being competitive, not even with everything we put in the bucket in comparing ourselves to other Texas districts. So this is something that's really important that we're going to need to work on, but I want to let you know that under the financial portion of our work, that is something that we have at the forefront to try to improve and work with our staff on. Our student demographics are pretty straightforward. I told you our population has changed and it's growing. We have more students, but not an increase in resources. And that diversity will cost us. So we have to make some tough choices about what we value and what we need to do. But we're growing, we're changing, but most importantly, we're improving. And so we got here, as the short version, by really prioritizing our efforts and focusing on what's most important in terms of our work and in terms of what our students actually need. We're stabilizing our initiatives that we've already started to ensure that all of our curricular work is actually aligned to our standards and strategic direction. I want to do a shout out to our performance office led by Bill Carich and Ramona Trevino, Chief Academic Officer, and Paul Cruz, our Chief Schools Officer, that have been doing something that we've never done in bureaucratic public school systems before. Cross-functional work. We are trying not to work in silos so that these kinds of things actually happen and happen in a more smooth way. It's like pulling teeth, but it's absolutely worth it. Now that we've done a lot of that work, we've really been trying to optimize the resources, the limited ones that we actually have. And while I know that Last year, with all the pain of losing good people, and in some cases, programming that we cared about and that we wanted to keep, that we do have people today, and we have good programming today, and we need to support and invest in that and protect that as we try to get through to the next legislative session. So that's really what it's about, and there are 3 significant things that have happened to really clear a path for us to have that conversation today. So I don't want people to walk away and not understand what we actually did to be here and be able to step out of the rain and look on the bright side and give you a hint, we're going to have some high hopes at the end too. So we got more to come. But it's a really critical transition to get out of that tax testing culture and moving to the whole child college readiness culture that will be needed for being successful on STAR. So here are the things that we did that, I want everybody to understand. We didn't just plan for a 1-year budget reduction last year. We did it over 2 years so that we could actually kind of calm the system down for this year and take our time focusing on academics, kids, and the transition to STAR. Now, something else our schools did that never gets reported, but I'm going to keep saying it until somebody actually makes it our headline. For the first time since 2003, we don't have a single school under No Child Left Behind sanctions, right? I mean, that is huge. And, well, I'm not sure I'll ever be the same, but we finished developing a facility master plan framework so we can then, in January 2012, start working on a facility master plan. And I do think that's progress in our district. That's huge progress because we never really had one. I can't find any institutional history or any residue of how we might plan. Lots of things we thought about, we talked about, we considered, but the board never took action on it. And our board, bless you for taking action on that framework. I can't wait to start applying it to a plan. So to reach our goals this year, the board not only established 2011 priorities, we went even this fall and tried to make the connection between this year and next school year for 2012-13. So what is important about this is that we are now working in a more proactive way under the leadership of our happy, smiling, always positive president with the support of our vice president, secretary, and other trustees to get ahead and be less reactive, right? And while this is not our normal mode of operation, it is important that we actually do this more and more as we prepare for the next legislative session. And these are they're gorgeous. They are new delivery models, human capital, school and district climate, and really focusing on our special populations. Now, I'm not going to go through everything in excruciating detail, but I just want to highlight that we are exploring and establishing new delivery models far beyond what you've been hearing about mostly through the media coverage of the academic and annual facility recommendations. Yes, those are new delivery models for schools, but what we really are talking about are what's the new delivery model for human capital? What's the new delivery model for how we look at multi-year budget planning? What's the new delivery model? We just approved the framework, but like for how we're actually going to plan for the use of our infrastructure in responsible, efficient ways. So I'm just going to highlight, though, for you how our mindset around this worked in the discussion with the board. We looked at the bookends of education. So on one end, our data showed that we really need to improve early literacy. K through 2 is a little, and middle schools is even, right? And that makes it really hard for high schools. So what we want to do is make sure that on the front end of our literacy work, the bookend on the left, that we are actually nailing down literacy in such a solid way that when kids are going up through the system, especially when they get to high school, we don't have children in the 9th and 10th grade reading at the 3rd and 4th grade level. That is just unacceptable. And we're going to get out of that pattern to ensure that we can do the next side, the other side, which is improve our graduation rates. Kids will always act out. They will always be frustrated. They will always push back on us and be, all those things that people complain about if we don't actually engage them early on getting a handle, quite frankly, on reading. Right? It's reading. They have to read at or above grade level at every step of the way, and that will cut out a lot of our challenges. But as I told you, our district has changed, and over here in the lime green column, you'll see that the board and I went over all the data of the district and really pulled out special education, English language learning with secondary ESL services, African American student supports, and advanced academics as areas for special populations that we're going to have to really concentrate on ensuring that our high flyers get more opportunities and access to high quality programming, and that all the other students who've been struggling because of high poverty, language needs, and in some cases the way we behave with them as adults, how do we kind of get our arms around that and lift the largest student population, because combined, these populations actually make the clear majority in our district. And without addressing that, we'll never really be able to be a recognized or exemplary district. Now, I also wanted to be sure that people understood under school climate and culture, while you heard, we've won national support for our work in Whole Child, Every Child, and really doing a lot of work in cultural proficiency and inclusiveness. We're working to be a no place for hate district and those sorts of things. There's really a lot to be said here about the climate of the district coming out of the budget cuts and some of the concerns that staff have. And so while we know that we're focused on kids, we don't do it alone. We are, in human capital, a people business. We're a business of big people who work with little people to try to make them better big people than we were when we were the big people educating the little people. I think you got the idea. So anyway, under human capital, we want to be sure that we focus on 3 areas that are going to be critical for supporting our staff today. First and foremost, ensuring that we address compensation. The second piece is about us being able to keep our pathways strong. We also, from the pathway piece, want to be certain that our staff is healthy and safe and capable of managing the needs of our district and our students. And finally, we're also focusing on variability of instruction, tracking what's most important about the differences in how leaders monitor teachers, so we have more consistent quality, not just in school classrooms, but in the buildings and comparing the buildings to each other. So variability of instruction is a large part of what our challenge is today. Now, protecting that pipeline of quality teachers, I think is going to be really hard in Texas after this legislative session, right? I mean, we sent the biggest message to everyone in the country and in the district that getting into education in Texas is a pretty dicey business today. So it's going to require, like I said in the purple box, a bit of rethinking on our human capital strategy so that we have new delivery models to consider. Now, it's going to be complicated by the fact that the single career teacher is just no longer going to exist. According to the U.S. Department of Labor and Statistics, today's learner is going to have at least 10 jobs by the time they're 38. So it's going to be a lot of entering, maybe working 3 years, going out, coming back perhaps if they enjoy the experience, but that's basically what we're seeing today. And not so long ago, virtually every teacher, I was just saying this to someone in preparation for this, just 15 years ago, even when I was in school, there was no such thing as alternative licensure, right? I mean, it was just this, you just went to college, you majored in education, and you were going to become a teacher. And today in AISD, we have some 40% of our new hires are actually alternatively certified. So the the demographics of our students are changing, but so are our teachers. So figuring out what's the right pathway for Austin in Texas is going to be really important. And then part of that human capital strategy is going to involve, yes, the compensation piece, but also taking some lessons right out of the book. I'm looking at our trustee, Tamala Barksdale, who is doing a lot of work with the state and shares this research with me. But they're finding that the highest ranked countries that have the highest quality, outcomes for kids, even including poor children, they actually recruit, retain, and develop 100% of their teachers from the top third of their college academic cohort, right? But in the U.S., by contrast, we have more like 23% of new teachers coming from the top third. So we know that we're going to, one, have to work with our colleges and universities, really do some outreach in other ways, perhaps build with students we have in our districts to go into teaching and education and stay with it, but we're going to have to rethink our pathway model. It's going to be very important that we take these lessons both internationally, nationally, and within the state and apply them to Austin. Now, we expect these educators, right, principals, teachers, support staff, to actually prepare the next generation for a world that we only can imagine, that we don't even know what's going to happen. So it's going to be important that we actually recruit and retain the very best and then invest in them. And that's why I don't want 3 years of flat salaries, right? It makes us fall even further behind on local districts and other large Texas districts. And like I said, our one-time budget strategy can help us push out a TRE until the 2013 year, but that we could possibly do something ourselves as a district. But we're going to have to ask the taxpayers of Austin to invest in our educators and carry that investment out over time. Now, to go back to the new delivery models, I just want to say that our board, while you've heard, has been talking mostly about these annual academic and facility recommendations that we'll be taking on in December. I want you to know that everything that we've talked about must have a foundation of, and that's what it says here, supporting facility plans and budget plans. So the supporting facility plan work, we just took action on the framework. So we have a process approved. Now we're going to start that process in November 2012. But we're going to be using a lot of the people who've been in the work groups with us. Now, I know principals have been doing all their work in the fall, talking about boundaries and transfers. We're looking at everything that we can consider so we can inform there's another advisory committee, the Capital Improvement and Bond Planning Advisory Committee that was recently established to take all that information and really start helping us kick off our framework in the right way so we actually can start working on a longer-term facility plan. But the board's going to be looking at alleviating severe overcrowding in north central Austin. We're going to still tackle and talk about strengthening the academic programs in the East Side Memorial Vertical Team. We're going to restructure our disciplinary programs to help address, under those special populations, the over-identification and placement of special ed students and African American students through our discretionary actions into these types of discipline programs. We know that our transition from a late exit model to 2- and 1-way dual language immersion is going to expand, so we're moving to 4 more schools. And we're going to be talking about other things that we might want to consider in the future, single gender education and other programs that will be important for us to think about today in preparation for tomorrow. So I know, I listen a lot to our community. I know some people might not think so, but I actually do listen, and I painstakingly read and go over every survey and comment that we receive as a district. I actually do that. And if anybody knows me, they know I read my email, I will text, I will call. I actually do the outreach personally myself. But I also want everyone to understand that the things that we're talking about in these academic and annual facility recommendations this December, right, did not happen recently. These are all things we've been battling with for decades. There's nothing on there that should be new to Austin. What is kind of new is that we're actually doing something about it now and taking actions now, because we have to start getting traction, putting some of these things to bed, and actually working with issues with the living, right? We can't keep working in the past. We've got to work in real time or work for the future. And that's the only way we're going to survive the rest of our lead up to the legislative session and get prepared for the next one. And I talked to Nicole Connolly before I even did this speech. She was the last person I saw before I walked on this stage. I was like, tell me, is there anything new about the budget? Is there anything new about the money? So I can give people the latest and the greatest. And the message is still clear. I don't expect a great legislative session next time. Senate Bill 1 is still in there, stewing. And for that, it means for Austin, we may see another $150 million reduction in our budget through the 2017-18 school year. So these are our realities. And what I want to be clear about is that the board and this superintendent, the leadership of this district, with our principals and our support with families and staff, we can do this in Austin. It does not have to break us. And you don't see me, for all the whoopings I get, and our board got even hiring me. No one is backing off on trying to do the right thing for the right reason at the right time. And so we've got to get all of our right decision-making done at the right time. We don't want to look back 10 years from now and go, where's that facility master plan? Or why didn't we really improve the Eastside Memorial vertical team? Or what are we really doing to help families in East Austin? We can't do that anymore. This is the time to move off the dime. So this is what we're prepared to do, and that's what we're ramping up all of our resources to support. Now that we've talked about the board priorities, aren't you glad we have them? I just want to say that it's going to be a pretty challenging time for everyone, and we really want to manage our district climate and culture. I know people are worried about job security, about the rollout of the new assessment. I have my fair share of anxiety dreams, and we work late into the night to try to really be prepared. But I want the community to know, and the staff that's sitting here, you have done great work. You have done great work. Now, while it's kind of messy and we're still trying to figure out how much testing is too much testing, as we set up our new, we didn't get a lot of support from the state, so we're kind of creating all this stuff ourselves. Don't get me started on the end of course exam policy work that we just went through. No guidance. We're all kind of fumbling through this. But it is tight. We do the work, it gets messy, but we clean it back up, and we've been taking more and more appropriate actions on pace with when we need to do it. And so I hope that helps reduce some of the anxiety. Again, to be clear, I'm not seeking financial exigency. We're not doing a reduction in force. And while we know we have budget cuts on the horizon, we have that 2-year plan to manage this year, and we will talk about an appropriate time to have a tax ratification election. And if we ever get a facility master plan, I want to be talking about a bond too. But I want to say that, we are concerned about our staff and our students, and we want you to feel healthy and safe in our schools. We want our students to be thinking more about nutrition and obesity, because we're seeing bad numbers in the state of Texas and our region. And we know that even some of our more basic needs, like north central overcrowding, is becoming a safety and health issue. And while I know folks don't want to change, and you're like, why are you bringing this problem to my backyard? I want everyone to understand that I get that we probably could have done maybe a little bit more a few years ago, but we are where we are today. And now that we're here, let's just take the steps to start making these things better for our students and staff. We are expanding our multicultural outreach and public relations work to go more directly to families, right? We hear oftentimes, or I feel like our experience is, we hear a lot from people who have all the technology and the means to get to places, but we're still trying to maximize those technologies and information so we can actually reach out directly to the people who are affected the most. So while I know sometimes on TV and in meetings, there are people who have their voice and come every time and express that voice, and that is important. But you need to know that your superintendent organization is going out to all other people, especially the families whose children will be affected the most by our decision making. And that's really where we should put the weight of our decision making for some of this hard work. And that is what we're doing. So to be clear, while maybe everyone's not using the old venues for how folks express their opinions, we are doing many, many others where we're getting hundreds and thousands of folks to give us feedback on everything from the school calendar. I think I was told we topped over 10,000 respondents. When we did it the old way, you might get 100, right? So you may not see them, but that doesn't mean that their voice isn't being put in a place where at least I get to pull it together for the board so they can make their decisions. Now, when our core business is about teaching and learning, it's important for us to be able to work with our community to help us in areas where, honestly, we're just not quite sure how we can get out of the box the right way. Things like facilities management, new health care, technology, and innovation really isn't where I think our market is as educators. So if you got one of the programs, please take a moment to flip over to the back and just see some of our dedicated partners. They are fabulous. They've made direct contributions to schools and kids, and they are really good supporters of AISD. I don't think that we acknowledge them enough. They are out there. I know some of them are in the audience right now. They come to late night meetings and community meetings just to keep up with us, and I just want to thank you publicly for all you've done to support AISD. We all have a stake in education. And I really don't think that we're overstating matters when we say that the future of our democracy depends on a healthy public school system in every city in America, especially urban cities. And when we support efforts to prepare our kids today, they carry forth the promise and the ideals of our nation. And it's with that, and it's why I say, well, we might be the 6th largest employer, I still think we got the most important job. So I think, when I think about the state of the district, and as we wrap up today, I have great high hopes, and I hope that you do too. Well, it's been a day for me. I hope it's been a great day for you. It's been pouring rain, as you saw. The clouds came and left. The sun is shining all within the last hour, and that's just like that Texas saying, if you don't like the weather, wait a while, and it will change. So I'm just asking, while we don't like our budget situation, and we don't like everything about what's happening in public schools in Texas, Just wait a while, work hard, like that little ant, and these things will change too. Thank you for coming out today, and thank you for your continued support.